and welcome back to another exciting episode of Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jamie.
And I am your other host, Mark. Welcome to the All In episode of Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast. We're going to be focusing primarily on the upcoming biggest wrestling event
of all time.
Of all time, unless you ask North Korea. And I do want to clarify this. Last week we were talking about this, and I said that there was one other event above WrestleMania 32 that supersedes the attendance. However, it was the Clash in Korea, which I think I said last time as well, and it was a mandatory attendance by
I don't think it
everybody
counts.
in North Korea. And if you don't understand what I mean with North Korea, just look up anything in the past 10 years of North Korea. But it was a forced attendance, and it was not a paid event.
Right. So I really think you can't say that necessarily counts.
This is the All In is now the highest paid wrestling event.
Congratulations to AEW for pulling that off, and also congratulations to WWE, who have also pulled off selling over 80,000 tickets over the course of 2 days for WrestleMania next year.
I think it was 90.
Did they already hit 90? I heard 80.
I believe they were using 90, and it was...
Regardless, still a cool thing.
The reason I even remember that it was 90 is because it just felt like
it's more than 80.
They were trying to push it a little bit more, which is good. It's all fine.
Hey, let's just all say congratulations to both companies for being able to pull off such an amazing feat.
I just love seeing the internet melt down when stuff like this happens, because, it's just funny to watch.
It's kind of one of those things where it's like, it's become a divided wrestling country, just like how the country was divided for a while. It feels like that, where like people feel like they have to be team AEW or team WWE, but we're just team Coffee and Wrestling here, and we're just trying
we just talk about.
I'm
we like
happy
talking
for
about
everybody.
Wrestling. And talking about teams, before we get into All In, I've got to give. There's not the WWE Women's Tag Championship have been.
I'm sorry, that was a little rough. You're rough. Going through it.
That was rough. They've been just as rough as my last 4 sentences. They've been very cursed. A lot of people have been injured. There has been a lot of just not the best with this. But we had talked about it last week, and I really got to give WWE its props.
Yeah, just when we were saying that Chelsea Green was doing something great with the tag team championships, doing the interviews, they came around literally the day we debuted our last week's podcast. And
which every Monday morning start your week off with a fresh cup of wrestling and coffee and wrestling. Not wrestling and coffee is a good guy to follow, but
that's
Coffee
our
and Wrestling
friend,
is a podcast.
No, Coffee and Wrestling. So they did. Chelsea Green had tried to stay relevant, didn't want to have to give up her tag team championship belts, and was doing interviews. Had several celebrities speak up and say that they wanted to be a part of Team hashtag Team Chelsea. So when Raw came around, they found a partner for her.
No, actually, they didn't find it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Her tag team partner found herself.
And we were talking about Piper Niven that podcast as well.
That's just great. I feel like we predicted the future here.
Shows up and grabs the other belt from Chelsea and says, "I'm your tag partner." And I love it because it was even done further beyond this. Like, it was a real quick segment. "I'm your new tag partner." That's it. And it was like, okay, cool.
Yep. They did like a photo shoot in the back afterwards.
And she even said, you gotta have to, you gotta, go through the application process. And she just looked at her and was like, "No, I am your partner." And even like beyond that, like later on, I think it was on the bump, they had Chelsea Green talking about her newfound tag team partner. And she was very kind of wishy-washy. Well, let me talk to the upper management to see what they say about her being my tag partner. It's not. I don't believe it's 100% official yet, but we'll see. And she ends up calling in. And
Piper does, right?
Piper ends up calling in, and her tone completely changes. She's like, I am your tag partner. She's like, "Oh yeah." Chelsea just like completely changes tone. I can't wait. We're going to have one of the most dominant tag team championship runs in all of women's history. It's going to be great. Of course you're the tag. I love it. It's that Karen mentality that they're really leaning in hard with her.
And Chelsea is going around saying that this is her second tag team run. That she's a two-time because she has a different reign with Piper than she did with Sonya. It's perfect.
It is. I feel like it
Great job staying relevant.
Up to par with the same thing that we have with Christian in AEW being the TNT champion.
For sure. People
Everybody knows it's bullshit. Everyone knows what he's saying is like not even borderline true.
Right.
It is so far from being true. It's unreal. But I really
You just want to believe it, though.
I really love what they've done with this situation with
props to WWE for going with it.
And just leaning into it instead of stripping them, because
Chelsea figured it out for them.
And it would have been the third or fourth couple that have been stripped of the tag team championships since Sasha and Mercedes left.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about Naomi, injured, I think there's been 5 or 6 tag teams that have had injuries.
So hopefully this is new doors to. Or open doors to a new situation with the women.
Oh, yeah, because Piper and Chelsea both absolutely deserve the time. And while we're giving out congratulations, it would be silly of us not to give a huge congratulations to Edge, who has spent the last 25 years in WWE. And as JR could not help but say on Collision this week, he signed Edge and Christian on the same week.
Yep.
So 25 years ago this week, Edge and Christian debuted in WWE,
and we've seen a hell of a career from Edge.
Well, both, yeah.
We saw I think it was 7 or 9 years. I can't remember that he was not an active.
Yeah, I think it was 7
in wrestling in any capacity. He even said he stopped watching the product. And but it's been found out that Tony Khan had talks with Edge back in 2019 when they were starting up AEW and getting superstars for the new promotion, and at that time that kind of started making the wheels go in Edge's head and actually got him back in contact with WWE, got cleared a year later, and then debuted. But yeah, 25 years of
incredible
of Edge's. I was never a big Edge fan because he was like one of the anti-heroes that I hated back. That you were supposed to back when we were kids.
Right, they did what they were supposed to there.
Yeah, it was just like Chris Jericho. I mean, today I find Chris Jericho to be one of the most interesting wrestlers of the most of my watching wrestling. So Edge is another one that I've kind of grown into. Okay, I may have not liked him as a wrestler, but he did exactly what he gave me. A bad guy. He gave me somebody that when he came on screen, I was like, I want whoever's against him to beat him.
Whoop his ass because you don't like him.
He's Edge,
right.
Because he's this pompous
right.
ass.
And obviously we had that whole thing with Edge and Matt Hardy when we were growing up.
Yeah,
so
if you know, you know.
If you were a Hardy Boy stan, then you just had to hate him.
First time I ever heard the words Ring of Honor was in WWE when he came out and said, Ring of Honor, here I come. The amount of TLC matches that Edge has been involved in, everything. The Brood.
Pivotal to our childhood, for sure.
And so good to see it come to a head. And it's with one of his best friends in WWE, Sheamus.
I don't know who could have done it better on the active roster to do that match with him. It was incredible.
And it's crazy because Edge, like we were just talking about, he's got a legendary career. Sheamus, very similar in the same vein to where may not be as legendary as, he didn't do as many first things as Edge did coming up through the Attitude Era, but Sheamus just having an illustrious career.
Sure.
An absolute power. We always use the word
consistent
workhorse.
Is great with him.
Yeah, he's always, whoever he's involved in a segment with, he's always, elevating everything.
Absolutely. Always performs. His promos are fantastic. His in-ring, he's always been able to perform in ring. When him and Cesaro had that tag team, I loved it.
Oh yeah, the bar.
Yeah.
And he always looks the part.
He does.
And he's even with the little uniqueness of him being super pale and with red hair.
Yeah, he just went with it.
Yeah, and have him be Edge's quote unquote final opponent in WWE, and that's a whole box that we can unpack, and I don't think we're ready to unpack that yet.
No.
But it great way to round it off. If this is Edge's final match, if we never see Edge in a wrestling ring again, I can't be unhappy with the run. I'm glad that we were able to see him return from his injury that was a life-changing injury, and be able to finish his career in WWE the way he wanted to, with a smile on his face in his hometown of Toronto. Fuck the Leafs. And it was a really good feel. Fuck the Leafs. It was a
Beth
really
was
good
there,
feel
his
good
kids
moment.
Were there. She's crying. Really, it felt very genuine, heartfelt.
It felt good.
Yeah.
With that being said, and like I said, I don't think this is the time and place to unpack this because he has stated his contract is not up until the end of September.
Right.
So
he doesn't have any matches so far.
That was his last contracted match that he had to do.
So he won't be at All In.
I guess he'll be on the WWE bump this week. So that he's not done with WWE yet. So yeah, he won't be at all in, even though that's how the minute he said this is my final match, because he had a couple minutes after SmackDown and he talked to the crowd, and of course the internet just blows up with rumors of, oh my God, Edge is going to All In, Edge is All Elite, it's going to be Edge and Christian. I mean, we were even like geeking out. Oh my God, what if Edge and Christian
Can't help but
team
dream.
back up in AEW? Then here comes the Hardys, and with Impact 1000 coming up, you have Team 3D or Dudley Boys.
Sure.
If you're not a complete mark, is reuniting for the first time in I think 10 years. It's one of those things where all of the planets are aligning, and you can't just sit here and look at them and be like, all right, there's the potential.
And and Edge has said, this is my last calendar year. I'm not going to be longer than a calendar year.
Well, he even said, he never said he has a full year, but he never said anything about, maybe a match or two, maybe a couple of months, maybe a month, maybe just a few days. Maybe he just shows up somewhere.
Exactly. And he's able to do that at this point in his life, that he can just kind of drop in and not be his career. That's okay too.
Yeah, drop in for 2 months and be part of a segment and elevate something, and whether it's in
It'll be the new Johnny
TV. I think it would be silly for people to think that Edge has not at least considered going outside of the WWE once his contract is done.
And especially with somebody like Christian that we just said that they came into the company together. Mm-hmm. It would only make sense for them to continue something like that for a last run. And it's, I don't know. It's kind of funny because people think, no way. And it's like, well, I mean, look what what AEW's been able to pull off.
No way my ass. Look at
the people who work there.
Look at every person that has come back to wrestling. Ric Flair had his quote unquote final match at 75? How old is he? I mean,
I don't know.
It's a never say never, situation. Vince McMahon said it perfectly. If it's going to make me money, why would I not consider it?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Whether you're 75 years old, 25 years old, one-legged, Brock Lesnar, The Undertaker, even Taker's doing podcast-esque individual shows, still making that bank on that Undertaker name, you know what I mean? So it would be silly not to think okay, Edge has had a 25-year run in the WWE. He has done everything that he could possibly want to do in a wrestling career. He's revolutionized tag team wrestling. It would be silly not to think that he wouldn't consider at least going maybe a little bit more.
And I think that's probably like a Bryan Danielson situation too. Bryan's very, very real, and when he talks about that, it wasn't he left because he was mad. He just came over to AEW, try something different, do something different with his career, and end it again the way that you wanted to end it. So, I mean, you can't say it's not possible.
No,
but it's got to happen in the next year or two. It's not like everybody can keep going forever. I mean, we talk about AEW. Christian really still has it.
He performed a hell of a match with Darby Allin this week.
He's 49.
He doesn't
I'm show it off.
As to what do you even say?
He's wearing the turtleneck, but underneath he's just
he's
ripped.
Getting it. He's good. Oh yeah, you can even
performs
see
well.
Even with that sleeveless turtleneck, when he raises his arms up, you can see his delts. I mean, you can see the ribbons in his delts.
Yeah.
That's not a old man thing. That is a young man's physique he has. So I mean, he's killing it. So I mean, it would make sense. But either way, so glad to see Edge rounding off 25 years of WWE.
It felt great. It felt so much nostalgia, being able to watch all the stars talking about the time that they've grown up watching him.
Numerous vignettes and numerous promos of different superstars and wrestlers talking about the impact where Edge has had. If you haven't seen it, go on WWE's YouTube if you don't feel like watching the entire SmackDown. But I'm guaranteed they've got it on there. It's if you've ever enjoyed any of his matches, great thing to go back and just watch.
All right, so we're just going to move on to everything AEW. And one of the hot topics that's been going on this week is the fact that CM Punk has not confirmed his match with Samoa Joe. Let's be real. Of course he was going to say yes, but hasn't actually confirmed that yet. Samoa Joe said at the beginning of Collision that this week that he was basically there to get an answer from CM Punk.
Yep, he started because that Collision's got those really neat little promos.
Oh, I love the beginning. I get excited for it.
And Joe said he's got a match tonight, and he really wants his answer from CM Punk. He came out to somebody, and this is classic, going to get squashed.
Well, he fought Serpentico last week, so you knew it wasn't going to be good for whoever was about to be in the ring.
and it was Gold Vampire.
I thought it was Cash at first, or Dax. I'm sorry.
Very reminiscent of Cash and Wheeler's.
Cash and Wheeler, Dax and Cash. I just did it too. When they were like the Green Frogs or whatever, and they won the tag.
They won the AAA tag team champions. So Joe comes out. There's this guy in a full head to toe outfit, gold with like I guess vampire teeth.
Sure.
No
Jobber
name.
of the week.
It didn't look like it fit that well. I mean, it was obviously somebody, and
it could have been Serpentico again for all we knew.
I know, right?
In a different outfit.
Match starts, and this dude just starts going a ram shot over Joe. Just beats the hell out of him, hits him with a go to sleep. And I mean,
not a good one. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and at this point, we already all know it's CM Punk. He takes his mask off and he says, "I accept, bitch," and
Saturday.
It was the most professional wrestling shit I've ever seen in my life, and I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know if I liked it or hated it.
Oh, I didn't like it at all.
I thought it was...
The intentions, I think, were good, but then the bad go to sleep, and then unfortunately CM Punk started pulling off his mask a little bit too early, so the whole thing just didn't go well. At least we were able to kind of push that off to the side because it was the beginning of the show.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's confirmed.
I mean, yeah, this was this was like the first 3 minutes of Collision.
Yeah.
So we're getting CM Punk and Samoa Joe at All In.
I mean, let's be thankful that we get to see that run back. I feel like the last match they had wasn't 100% of what they both had. Let's be real.
No, and it was kind of weird because they sold it like it was going to be this big ordeal, and it ended up being just a regular match. Like, it wasn't a bad match.
Yeah, it was to push CM Punk forward in the Owen Hart Cup.
Right, and I get that, but I wish it would have. I don't know. It didn't feel like it meant a lot, and it felt like they were really trying to push it as we haven't seen them in the ring for 10 years. They had a legendary rivalry between each other and ROH. So it was kind of one of those things where it's like, wow, this is like really, this should be a contender for match of the year.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I just got my expectations up a little high.
Oh, and I think we all did.
It just wasn't what I thought it would be, and they kind of mirrored that by having Joe come out and go, well, a roll-up isn't the way that
understandable.
And it's like, all right, I get what they're getting at, but at the same time, it's a moot point at this point. It's like losing the championship and saying, hey, why don't we have a scrimmage game to show who's really
understandable.
The winner?
I think what they were trying to do here was set up something long-term, because RVD proved this week, Rob Van Dam proved in an interview this week, he said that AEW called him at the beginning of the year to set up this match with Jack Perry, and the first date they gave was the one that he worked. So they obviously plan their stuff months in advance. To me, it seems like something that AEW set up, and it did exactly like I said, gave you about 65-70% of what they could actually do.
Right.
So that you did feel like, that wasn't everything. So when they set it up for All In, you're like, okay, this is actually going to be them both giving it everything they have in front of 80,000 plus fans and all the people watching.
Right.
I feel like that's going to be the match we all waited for.
It's definitely, I feel like it's got a sense of urgency to make sure it is a very good match. And for two dudes that are kind of getting out of their into their twilight years of their career, it's a big dish to have to serve out in All In,
especially a singles match too.
Yeah.
Not like you can tag somebody else in and get 5 minutes away.
Now, is this going to be like? Actually, it is. It's for the real AEW World Title match. I'm looking at it right now. I didn't realize that.
It is for CM Punk's title.
Okay, so Samoa Joe could possibly leave as the ROH television champion as well as the real AEW World Title match.
I mean, he's walked around with Joe Two Belts.
The king of television. I love it.
He is the king of television.
I really enjoyed when he was the king of television. He had both. It was the TNT belt and the ROH TV championship.
But he's still doing the whole king of television thing, and I think it's important that he fights every Collision for that reason. He is what the TNT belt used to be.
Right.
The TNT belt used to be defended every week by Cody, by Sammy, by somebody.
Well, that was like the whole idea.
A while ago,
it's like the television title. It's whenever we're on TV, the title is defended, and
it's good. He's relevant in ROH, but he's relevant on Collision too.
Right. Well, if we're going to talk about relevancy, Chris Jericho has got to be one of the only wrestlers that over his entire career from beginning to end, he has made sure that he has changed himself to be relevant in
absolutely
modern wrestling, between whether it's the Attitude Era, the PG era, the post PG era, the McMahon era, the now AEW, NJPW, wherever he goes, he ends up not having to, but he ends up recreating his character.
Yeah, if you didn't know, he says that he's very inspired by David Bowie. He has a David Bowie tattoo recently, but
who is very well known for every album, just exactly. Hey, I look like a drag queen, and the next one he's like, now I'm just David Bowie in a motorcycle jacket.
And that's what Chris Jericho's trying to do, is constantly reinvent himself, and
does a great job at it.
He really does.
And I feel like we're on the cusp of another one of those as we're going into All In, because he kind of turned his back. Well, not kind of. He turned his back on the JAS and decided to go. They turned the back on him,
Well,
I mean, yeah. But now has decided to go with the Don Callis family, and apparently Don Callis didn't have any intentions of actually keeping him in there, because smashed him overhead with that gorgeous picture that
he said that he didn't think
pictured.
Jericho was going to agree to be a part of the family.
Which, I mean, I feel like, yeah, but goddamn, what a you just sat there and was like, oh, I'm going to fuck him up, well before he even made the decision.
Well, yeah, it's Callis, of course.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Of course, you already thought about this happening this way.
But yeah, now we have Chris Jericho versus Will Ospreay at All In, and
it's kind of interesting. A lot of people don't think that it's a good matchup, because, of course, Will Ospreay is over here in his prime, the GOAT.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have, the GOAT, Chris Jericho. So,
he changed the United States title in NJPW to the European title now?
I love it, yeah.
Just pop that plate off and put a brand new one on there.
It's brilliant.
It's probably just two Phillips head screws behind the fucking leather, so.
Let's be honest, but he's like a next generation. He's this generation, huge talent. So what can we expect of something for Chris Jericho versus Will Ospreay?
Now, I think with Chris Jericho, he's always one of those oh God, it's this, 20, 30 year veteran. He's doing a match, biggest stage of wrestling event. And we've got Chris Jericho, a 30-year veteran, taking on a very young guy. Or maybe not a very young guy, but a younger guy. And
sure.
I'm sure
comparatively,
if you look at it from an outsider's expectations, you're like, well, it's going to be the young guy carrying the old guy, and every time this stuff happens...
I don't know, guys. I think we all forget. Jericho knows how to hang, guys.
Chris Jericho's he's a nut in the ring. He's so good.
Yeah.
He knows his strengths.
But he also is really one of the absolute best at making other people look good.
Oh, 100%.
He will do everything in his power to make the other person look good, which,
and Will
of course,
Ospreay doesn't need that, though.
No, but it's very important for Will Ospreay's career, with anything progressive with AEW.
Especially
and his contract ending in NJPW, this is a good time for Will Ospreay to show off.
And especially being introduced to the United States crowd. If you're listening to podcasts and you kind of probably know who Will Ospreay is, a little bit more than the average individual that's just watching a weekly program.
Sure.
But if you don't look beyond the weekly program, like a lot of people who enjoy wrestling don't do.
And a lot of people didn't watch Forbidden Door.
And if you don't know who these people are, if you don't know who these people are, it's difficult to just have this guy come in and be the powerhouse and be the outstanding talent that he is.
Right.
And not be able to sell that to the crowd without showing them, okay, we're going to put him in this high capacity position to where if he fails, it's going to be a huge blunder. But when he doesn't, you're going to be floored with this guy. And you put him with somebody who is just a tried and true fan favorite, that the song is off the charts when he comes out. Every little stupid saying he has turns into a t-shirt. He goes over so well with the fans, and pairing him with Will Ospreay will then bring Will Ospreay into that fold with those fans.
Right. And let's be real. There's a reason why Tony Khan is so famous for making these incredible matches.
Oh, yeah.
He obviously has a lot of faith in this being something that is going to represent AEW in such a large capacity. The pressure is on for this. You think he just threw this together for absolutely no reason? There's a reason why.
This is really a make or break moment for AEW. Now, if it goes over okay, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. But if All In goes bad, if it's it ends up being one of their worst shows, this could really screw up AEW from here on out.
Sure.
But I think by putting some of these matches together that aren't the internet wrestling community's standard go-to, this needs to happen at the biggest
exactly.
stage in AEW.
This has to happen this way.
By doing that, I think you break that mold of like, oh, well, Tony Khan's just doing it because he has a bunch of, guys that are like toys to him that he can just do whatever
right.
he wants to. You know what I mean? So I think this is going to be one of those matches that it's going to be maybe not surprising that it's so good, but I think surprising that it
is one of the most talked about, maybe?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's going to be one of the ones that overperforms what people's expectations are.
Exactly, which is always a good thing.
Always.
Not to be like expect to be underwhelmed, but to have your mind blown in a sense that you are expecting certain matches to be the best, and then that one pulls you off to the side and you're like, wow. And I think that's going to be the coffin match. Of course, I'm a huge fan of everybody involved in this coffin match. I literally have been a fan of Sting since I was like 3 years old. So I'm stoked for it, but every time Sting and Darby Allin do anything, it's usually somewhere towards like the 3/4 mark of the show where it's starting to get a little bit lull, and you have
people's asses are getting sore on the chairs.
Yes.
They're done. They don't want to spend another $9 on a soda and a fucking pretzel.
Exactly. This is the time that Sting and Darby Allin are famous for. They come in, they absolutely dominate the entire time. Sting is never afraid to take a bump or two.
No, and he's running that Joker Sting right now.
Oh,
which
I love this.
I never really. I guess I'm dumb as shit. I never noticed like he had different face paints.
Okay.
Over the years, like just because I'm a dumb kid. I'm really enjoying like the whole Joker aspect, that when he has this little bit of unhingedness to him, he's a little bit more dangerous. You look at him like, oh, this is reminiscent of the Sting that used to come out with a baseball bat and face off against 5 guys just because he knows he can take them.
Exactly. And what he did with Prince Nana this week was just top notch.
Yeah, and I do love what they call it, the Joker Sting. He's got the face paint with the the
red
scar,
lips, yeah.
And I love that it's a reference to the Joker, but it's not a direct like, oh, he's got, you've got like Penta. He's got an outfit that is literally the Joker. Sure. You know what he's referencing, but it's not part of his gimmick. It's just an outfit. Sting has taken the gimmick from Joker and has implemented it into his his professional wrestling. And I think it's great. And it paired up with Darby Allin, who's already batshit crazy.
Sure.
And now you've got Swerve and AR Fox, who amazing
can out-wrestle
wrestlers.
90% of anybody's roster.
Swerve and AR Fox are known for having over-the-top matches.
Yeah.
You put
if you've never seen the two of them fight in Lucha Underground, I've probably said this a million times, please go do it.
And I mean, they've even shown
Dante Fox and Killshot.
They've even shown that with the vignettes they've had with Nick Wayne, where they went to Nick Wayne and literally left him in a pool of his own blood in his dad's garage.
And now the opposite thing happened this week, and I'm glad that they made mention of it, that Sting and Darby approached AR's wrestling school and did the same thing
and attacked them, and it was.
It's so good. I'm really invested in it.
It's bringing back that you keep the kayfabe going outside of professional wrestling shows. You see clips from now, back when they didn't have social media, you would see these clips on Monday Night Raw. You would see somebody attacking somebody at the grocery store. You would see somebody, destroying somebody's car. But because we have social media, you can take these things and turn them into content to get people to want to watch it.
And Darby's really, really good about doing stuff like this.
Right. Yeah.
Like, why not use your platform to continue the story? He did this with Brody King, and they had like a signing or like a meet and greet Brody Allin was doing. And Brody
a hot
King,
or something. And
smashed him through the meet and greet table.
Yeah, he threw him through the table, like threw all the merch everywhere. There was people in line, like he was signing.
I haven't met him yet. Yeah.
Yeah, there's people like signing, like getting shit signed, and Darby just looks up and Brody just blindsides him like right in front of a fan who paid probably $50 to, but at the same time that, that fan is like, oh my God, I was standing there when Brody attacked him.
Right.
So I love like these little things are doing.
It doesn't seem like kayfabe. It feels like real. It feels like they really hate each other.
Yeah,
that they're like plotting outside of their house to wait for them to leave so they can like stab their tires or something. Like it's really, really, really good.
Well, we will see all of this come to a head. Darby Allin and Sting.
I can't wait. Coffin match.
AR Fox and Swerve Strickland in a coffin match. They
a tag
brought
team
out,
coffin match, which is interesting too. So you have to get both people in the coffin.
I'm sure it's only one, but I guarantee both are going in.
Yeah.
Whether it's Sting and Darby Allin or it's AR Fox and
Sting
Swerve.
and Darby Allin are undefeated.
I'm telling you, I'm telling you, any undefeated streak has to come to an end. If Taker's streak came to an end,
on a coffin match?
The only person that we'll get to that. We're going to bring that up here in a second with undefeated streaks right now. But I am still convinced that, and we've talked about Sting's retirement soon. I'm still convinced that the retirement match for Sting needs to be him and Darby Allin.
It's got to be.
And an all-out, whether it's like a Hell in a Cell,
something,
tribal combat.
Something. It doesn't have to be a disrespectful thing, almost like Santos and Ray.
Right.
You know, like, we're on the same team, but this is how I want to go out.
Right.
And Darby's like, okay, fuck it.
I really think that would, with the run that Sting is on, and I know Tony Khan has come out saying that this is Sting's, like, most prolific run.
I saw that. That's a little bit of a stretch there.
Tony Khan's a hell of a businessman.
Can't blame him.
Regardless, if you're just looking at AEW Sting, I think it would be the best way to round off his career.
It would only make sense for his entire AEW career
because
and Darby's
he's always been in Darby's
to do
corner.
That.
He was the one that came out and like slapped Darby and was like, "Get your shit together.
Right.
You have a match up next."
He's so pivotal to Darby's career, but vice versa. So I feel like it absolutely has to be like that.
He gave Darby that, oh shit, it's that guy power.
Exactly.
That when you look up in the rafters, which Darby has done, and you're like, oh shit, it's Darby Allin. He's going to jump off these rafters 45 feet and attack with a skateboard, just like how Sting would come down from the rafters with a baseball bat.
I think they could do it well because they've done in the past where they've done like videos. They were pre-recorded videos of Darby Allin having matches. I think they could do something cool like that with Sting's last match because Sting can't go 15, 20 minutes in the ring. Let's be real. You can't blame
that's
him.
why he's always in tag matches. So
but if they had something like that, you can have one hit and then you can just edit it so it looks really good and have that really cool match that him and Darby would need to do, like in Darby's backyard or something.
Darby's always been good with those cinematic matches. I mean, you could do a combination of both, where you have a cinematic match and then it bleeds into an actual
they come
them
into the
coming
ring.
into the ring. He's got blood already and from
it looks like it's part of the video.
But this is going to be probably one of the most hard-hitting matches on the card at All In. Is this coffin match?
Yeah, don't try to leave. This is not pee break nacho time, guys.
None of this is going to be pee break nacho time. So I may be amiss to eat my words about being the most hard-hitting match of the night because I did forget about the Stadium Stampede match.
Yes, Wembley style.
So 80,000 plus.
Get to see Jon Moxley bleed?
In a Stadium Stampede match.
Oh, everybody's in.
Everybody's in. Yeah, everybody's in. Practically, we got a 6 versus 6. We've got Chuck Taylor, Trent Beretta, Penta El Zero Miedo, Ray Phoenix, Orange Cassidy, and the returning never open weight champion, Eddie Kingston, fresh out of G1 33. A lot of information here.
Strong never open weight champion?
Something.
Doesn't matter.
He's never the open weight champion.
He's back. And he's going to be having a lot of fun as he pounds in Claudio's head as they take on, let's see here, the Blackpool Combat Club.
Well, he's got beef with Claudio, but his best friend, Jon Moxley's in this match.
Yeah.
On the opposite side again.
Sometimes your friends stand in the way, and this is just going to be friendly fire. We've got Claudio,
I don't think
Jon
there's going to be anything friendly about anything in this match.
Well, no, and you've got Wheeler Yuta, which if you just look at this, you're like, oh, BCC, cool, they're against everybody else. But Wheeler probably has the most backstory aside from Eddie Kingston and Claudio.
Right. Well, and Claudio.
Because Wheeler Yuta was obviously a part of Best Friends. Orange Cassidy, I believe, got Wheeler an opportunity to work for AEW, if I'm not mistaken.
He was considered his protege,
Yep. And now he's facing him against each other in the Stampede.
He even famously turned his back on the Best Friends.
Right.
When
to make the right decision and join the BCC in my eyes.
He ended up fighting Jon Moxley and felt, it made perfect sense. He felt like he wasn't getting the respect that he was due. He was not getting the matches, the wins, anything.
Right.
And ended up leaving the Best Friends for the BCC. So, like you said, a very storied backstory between Orange Cassidy, Wheeler Yuta, and the Best Friends.
Really? Yeah.
And then just over AEW's history between the Lucha Brothers and Moxley.
Right.
They've
been building that up
bloody battles
the last few weeks.
Eddie Kingston and Moxley and Claudio all
so it's really intertwined, not just for a random reason.
And then we haven't even talked about the 3 open spots.
I was going to say, and there's still 3 open spots. If you want to go over to AEW's Twitter, I'm going to call it Twitter. I don't care what you say. You can see
X for the straight edge people.
The silhouettes of their heads.
Oh, yes.
And you can sit there like every other fan.
Internet wrestling detectives.
And try to figure out who it is.
Fire up every wrestling game and look at every outline.
Speculations as to who you think or might like to see.
Well, I can't really make my predictions because I hadn't thought about it, and then you said something, and I can't not get it out of my head. So I'm gonna throw the question back to you.
Well, I feel like
who do you think are going to be the 3 participants on BCC side?
Well, of course, Shooter. Yeah, Shooter
McGavin?
Shooter McGavin. Now, that would make things really interesting. I'm going to go with Shooter McGavin, Bob Barker, but then who would be the
Bob
third?
Bob Barker, shit. Probably that...
The Crocodile?
The Crocodile. Yeah, no, probably the big dude that was Happy's boss. Oh, my God. If you're over the... oh, my God.
If you don't get this reference, oh, my God.
Happy Madison. No,
Happy Madison.
That was the production company.
Yeah, Happy Gilmore. No, I don't think it's going to be Shooter McGavin, although that would be, again, quite interesting.
Actually, I think he's dead. Now that I think about it.
He's not dead.
Okay.
No.
Jade, Randy, whatever your name is, I need you to fact check. Is Shooter McGavin dead? And then text me as soon as you know. And then if you don't text me,
then we'll know you didn't listen to the podcast.
We know you didn't listen to the podcast.
So, again, Shota Umino.
Okay.
The shooter that makes a little bit more sense.
He's like the stepbrother BCC member. He's there, but he lives in a different house.
Sure. He lives in the backyard.
Yeah.
So you have him. But I was thinking, you've got 2 people left, and I haven't really analyzed these people's heads, but,
I wouldn't analyze any of these people's heads. There would be the 6 guys in this match. There's a lot going on in their heads, and I've got my own problems. I couldn't imagine the problems they've got in their heads.
I think if you're going to make things interesting and not tell us who it is, you got to have somebody who's like a returning member or somebody from a different country or something.
Somebody that has maybe some history involved with these other individuals.
Yeah, but also like really close ties to fighting best friends. How about the returning Santana and I hope his best friend Ortiz?
I mean, not confirmed returning, but rumored.
Well, I mean, if you're following Santana on Twitter, you see that he's definitely been hinting that he's coming back. He's been out since the
Blood and Guts match last year. Not this previous one, the one before that. It was within seconds. He came in and like twisted his knee or something like that.
He's been out ever since. So.
We talked about this a few weeks ago. They've been on, him and Ortiz have been kind of on the outs. I guess, were not agreeing on creative. And the rumor was that was going to lead to Santana not renewing his contract and leaving AEW, which it sucked because I was really enjoying them. So, I mean, to see them come back would be great. But we still have Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision before All Out. So
you really never know. That's just what I'd like to see personally.
Right.
But the backstory, like I said, with Best Friends, and they did that. What did they call that where they fought in Daly's place? BCG just did it recently too.
Oh, the parking lot brawl. I don't think they had a name for it. It was just
it was the parking lot brawl because Best Friends had fought Santana and Ortiz in that, and I feel like all of this coming together would make so much sense with it ending with Santana and Ortiz. So.
Oh, 100%.
But they won't let us down.
I mean, and even if you go on the AEW website, you can see that they've put him, Santana, and Ortiz back into active participants, I guess. But we'll see. Like I said, we got a week until the pay-per-view, and hell, you know how AEW does. They might not even say who it is until the 3 BCC members are standing at the top of the stage at Wembley, and you hear somebody's music kicks in. You mean
Ishii?
I would love to see Ishii at all. And anytime I can see Ishii.
So we talked a lot about Collision so far in this episode, and you can't talk about Collision without talking about the Collision Cowboys.
The Collision
bang,
Cowboys.
Bang.
I love that nickname. It's so fucking good.
Bullet Club Gold, which is Jay White, Juice Robinson, and Konosuke Takeshita. Rock hard, Juice Robinson. Will be taking on the Golden Elite, Adam Page, Kenny Omega, and Kota Ibushi.
So real quick, before we get into this match, sure. I have something I guess not admit, but I work with a guy at work named Ricky. And if you've seen all of the collisions, they had Juice Robinson was having like a back and forth with Ricky, and every time he saw him, he'd Ricky!
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I yell that at him at least once a day, and he looks at me like I have 15 heads. And I've even tried to explain to him, it's like, oh, it's this guy, he's named Rock Hard Juice Robinson. And he looks at me like I've got 25 heads. He just, it's the funniest damn thing. So just a little shinfo about, Mark's life outside of coffee and wrestling.
I just love these guys. Like the best thing for Collision was that they put Bullet Club Gold with the Guns.
I loved it.
I love Austin and Gold.
I don't know how I didn't think of the Guns joining Bullet Club Gold. And when they did, it was like...
The Bang Bang Gang, you know?
It was like J-Lo and Benifer, whatever I can't remember his name is.
Oh my God. Well, Benifer was the two of them together. That would be Ben Affleck.
I don't know anything outside of wrestling. I don't know pop culture. I tried. This is why we don't do a pop culture podcast. This is why it's not coffee and pop culture. It's coffee and wrestling.
Coffee and pop culture, yeah.
Bullet Club Gold has become one of my favorite factions.
I love them.
I didn't know if I was going to like Juice Robinson when he came out.
I wasn't his biggest fan. I'll be honest.
And now I am just as rock hard as Juice Robinson is whenever he comes out. I love it. I think BCG is great. The addition of the Guns is great.
I don't care what Clark Connors says.
I was just about to say we got Clark Connors talking some shit about every other Bullet Club besides the New Japan.
Even the OC,
War
which
Dogs,
is funny as hell.
Led by David Finlay, who was the one that attacked Jay White and basically kicked him out of NJPW, which then led him to land in AEW. And I am still hopeful that we are going to see an NJPW Bullet Club War Dogs crossover with Bullet Club Gold and whatever other Bullet Clubs we got in WWE and in Impact and wherever else. Like, I want to see the Bullet Club universe come to an absolute head and just, it's like, I want an entire Bullet Club pay-per-view. I want every Bullet Club associated member.
If you've been an active member at some point, I mean, obviously
atoned
the
for
Elite.
your crimes. Or get rid of the Bullet Club logo, and it's like a worldwide thing. You just get rid of all the Bullet Club, except for
your best former 100%. Bullet Club.
See, I'm telling you, Tony Khan, call me. So yeah, we have this 6-way match between Bullet Club Gold and the Golden Elite.
Adam
Page,
and let's not,
Kenny Omega, and Kota Ibushi.
Yeah, let's not take any steam off the fact that this is 3 of the
2/3 of these
greatest
former Bullet Club members.
Right, while we're talking about Bullet Club. And then Kota Ibushi, who we didn't realize was going to be being back into such a big platform in AEW so quickly. Kenny definitely said he would be around, but wow, like right away. It's incredible.
People have been begging for these two to be back back in wrestling
Golden
together.
Lovers.
Why not put them in the biggest event in wrestling history?
You know, of course, they've been thinking about all this with All In, for a very long time. So
I'm sure
it might seem random to some people, but I'm sure they've been planning this for.
And a lot of people are upset about that. A little side note: a lot of people are upset about the booking of All In, how it doesn't have like every dream match that you could ever dream up. Eat a dick.
Well, it's not your show.
It's not your show, and I think if you did, everything that everybody expects you to do in this pay-per-view, it's going to come off corny. It's going to come off
and then
pandering.
What do you have to watch for anymore? You have nothing to look forward to anymore.
Right.
Well, I want the Claudio and Eddie Kingston one-on-one. Well, we're not ready for that. We need to keep that for a little bit longer.
Yeah, how are you going to put that? How are you going to make that build up, or not have that build up, and then put it at the biggest?
Right.
I mean,
not yet.
At the same time, I guarantee somebody is fuming right now listening to this saying, well, this rivalry has no build-up either.
Well, and a lot of people are very upset that it's not Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay. Well, we've just done both of those very recently, and those are NJPW. But those are NJPW rivalries, too. Mm-hmm. Those aren't technically an AEW rivalry,
and the
so
why would you do that
here?
We saw it on AEW product was because it's a crossover between AEW and NJPW.
Exactly. The other time was NJPW, so that's also not the right time. So, I don't know. I guess I'm understanding of sometimes there's a long game to this. You have to keep watching every week, see what happens, and when they finally give it to us, how great it will feel.
And I don't think that we're going to see the Golden Elite and Bullet Club Gold develop into this huge rivalry between each other over this. I think this is something to make a good match with.
I think it's going to be a great wrestling match.
Yeah, but individually they're able to push their storylines along. You've got the Golden Elite,
yes.
Being
now you're more familiar
with BCG
Ibushi
fighting a very one of the top guys in AEW plus Kota Ibushi, who's
exactly. You're keeping the Konosuke Takeshita rivalry going with Kenny Omega.
Right.
Don Callis is going to be there.
So individually, I think that this is going to be good, but I don't think we're going to see more beyond this. Outside of All In, maybe a little bit to just kind of flush out the story so that it's not like, they fought and then that's it. But I think that this is going to be one of those things that it's setting the course for more than just these two teams fighting each other.
Well, if this ends in Juice Robinson versus Kenny Omega 1-on-1, I'm in. Bang, bang.
Bang, bang versus bang?
Versus I bid you adieu. Bang.
Bang. So while Hangman and Kenny are hanging out with Kota Ibushi and doing the flippy flips with the Bullet Club Gold, you will be seeing the Young Bucks taking on FTR for the AEW World Tag Team title matches. And I think we couldn't talk about this match without talking about Cash Wheeler getting arrested. Like, I'm sorry. I don't want to talk about it. We're never ones to talk about the negative.
Yeah.
Cash Wheeler got arrested for apparently brandishing a gun in an argument on the road. The story looks really weird.
You know, it's easy to get upset or have people upset with you.
Honest to God, though, if you've been on I-4 in Florida and you've never had some dude in a jacked up truck or Jeep yell at you and point either a weapon or something at you,
try to run you off the road,
then you haven't driven on I-4 very much.
Of course, not justifying Cash's
not at all.
behavior in the slightest. I don't understand why it escalated like that. But regardless, there was a lot of rumors flying around. Everybody on Twitter, all of a sudden, they're a lawyer, and they knew exactly what was going to happen. But it turns out the AEW has obviously confirmed that FTR and the Young Bucks will be fighting at Wembley at All In, rubber match for the titles. We haven't really talked a lot about this match. How do you see this going? Like, how do you see this ending? Pending whatever Cash is dealing with in his personal life, you know.
Well, it's interesting that, it could go either way for me. I could see FTR keeping the titles and continuing on with I'm going to say a hot take here, the mediocre title run that they've had since getting the belts.
Well, they haven't really given them a lot of just tag team matches. It's been a lot with CM Punk. It's been a lot of building up a Collision. So no, I don't think FTR has had a great run this time around.
I feel like it's taken a lot of steam out of their tag title run.
It has.
It's not to take away anything from FTR. Every time they're in the ring, I'm impressed with them, and I love FTR. I used to listen to Dax's podcast. I like their style of wrestling. I like the way they go about, whatever you want to call it. I just don't feel like it was the best tag team run. Now, the Young Bucks haven't had the titles in a while, and this is their first chance in a good little minute.
Not since they lost to the Lucha Bros, right?
I believe so. I could see them also winning these titles, but not because it's going to be the Young Bucks' next big thing. I think that it's going to, if putting my money down, I think that the Young Bucks are going to win this, and this is going to turn into something with the Hardys.
Like it was supposed to run out the original
Like it was rumored to be years ago that the Hardys were supposed to get their run, and I think that's what this is going to build into, is the Hardys getting the titles from the Young Bucks, giving the Hardys one last title run, giving the Hardys the spotlight one last time. They've already said this is their final run in wrestling, and I think that would be a good way to, get it done and over with.
Right.
Give the Hardys their last hurrah.
By the way, I don't know what I was thinking. Of course, the Young Bucks had the titles before Keith Lee and Swerve.
That's right. Yep.
They were like a transitional champ in between them.
And then, I mean, let's be honest here. We talked about it earlier. You make the Hardys the AEW Tag Team Champions, right?
Okay.
All of a sudden, here comes Team 3D.
Well,
and all of a sudden, here comes Christian. And lo and fucking behold, we're looking at Revolution.
On this day.
Here comes Edge. And we have a 3-way tag match, TLC, at Revolution.
Oh my.
For the AEW Tag Team Championships between the Hardys, Team 3D, and Edge and Christian. I think I said that twice.
The seats would sell out so quickly, they would have to book Wembley again.
They would have to come to Orlando.
Oh, don't even play around. Don't even play. I'm hopping on a plane and I'm going wherever that is. Kansas.
And even without Edge and Christian,
Kansas Revolution.
Without Edge being a thing, I think that giving the Hardys one last opportunity to be tag team champions, I would love to see it.
Well, and I don't know I can't speak for anybody because I don't know how he's doing as far as his injuries going, but if we're going to talk about the ultimate way for the Hardys to go out, one last run as tag team champion, sure, of course. They're one of the best tag teams of all time. Mm-hmm. Do they deserve a final run? Absolutely. They deserve that run in AEW. Obviously, Jeff's doing whatever he needs to do, which is great. But what if we got the return of Mark Quinn and Brother Zay, who's been by the Hardys this entire time, and they are the ones, private party, that get the tag team belts off of the Hardys? they grew up loving the Hardy Boys just as I did, just as we did. And getting the tag team belts from Matt and Jeff, like that would be the coolest thing, not only for them, but it would make so much sense in the story for
that's
a private party.
Long-term storytelling there.
Just
but yeah,
saying,
I could see that
would
being
make so much sense in the AEW lore. You know, he's been there by your side this whole time. You finally are going to get a chance at these belts, and they get it.
I could see that happening. You would have to rebuild Private Party back up to be a fan favorite, and they're
so good.
They are, but they have been riddled with injuries, just like Top Flight.
Unfortunately,
back-to-back injuries. Whether it was Darius or Dante, it's just been nonstop. I mean,
Mark's been out for hella.
Yeah, he's been out for a good long little minute. But Brother Zay or whatever you want to call him, like he's been able to stay in the limelight and keep it going. Right. I mean, he's had that with Ethan Page and Jeff or Matt Hardy.
Even before Jeff was a part of AEW.
Yeah, but I really think like if you were going to do something like that, but you have time to do it, you would have to rebuild Mark Quinn and him back up to. If Mark Quinn could perform with the performers they were before,
yeah, they could definitely do that. They have the charisma, and I hate to compare them all the time, but they remind me so much of the Street Profits in such a positive,
like smaller
way.
Versions.
Oh my God, they're so good. The charisma is just out,
and their chemistry is really like it's unquestionable that they're so partners. Good. You know what I mean? And like you said, much like the Street Profits, like they know each other in the ring. The Hardys, same thing. Team 3D, Edge and Christian, the
Young Bucks,
the Young Bucks, FTR, like all of them have that chemistry of I know. Even though it's behind my back, I know this guy's going to jump off of this and he's going to be in that spot so he can save my ass.
That's like John Silver and Alex Reynolds. They have such a great
in-ring tag team.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Rock and
Sock Connection.
Yes, 100%.
Oh, you were going to say
100%.
that. 100%. Yes.
The most underrated tag team of all time. I don't give a shit. But, oh, God.
What a time.
What a time. But yeah, going to be a real good match between those two. FTR and Young Bucks. I can't see how they're not going to put on a good match. And
for sure. And it would make sense for, like you said before, the Young Bucks to be able to pull off the win at this capacity. The Young Bucks, just because they are the people that helped create this company and they're the executive vice presidents.
What EVP,
whatever it is. They don't always book themselves to win, like you got to be real here. Obviously, it comes down to who gets booked to win, but so they don't always book themselves. They put a lot of tag teams over, but I feel like this would make a lot of sense with everything that's happened in All In history.
Right.
Kenny's not in a singles match, so he's not going for a belt, and Cody's not there.
Mm-hmm. And this is All In was the pay-per-view that started All Elite Wrestling. It wasn't AEW All In the first one. It was just All In. It was the name of just a wrestling pay-per-view.
Yeah. So it makes sense for the Young Bucks to win here. Nobody could be upset by that. And God, the celebration in Wembley.
And honestly, even if they don't, FTR winning, it can go either way.
It's going to be a great match.
Everybody's going to be just as happy as everybody's going to be just as mad when whoever wins.
Sure. All right. We're going to talk about the women's division. So far, there's only one match set up. I'm hoping that they'll at least do a buy-in.
Especially with the amount of criticism women's wrestling has been getting recently and how it's being booked.
I mean, we can have a friendly Willow versus Chris Statlander for the TBS Championship. Again, Tony Khan, you need some ideas. We have a bunch. But we are going to be seeing an AEW Women's World Title 4-way match. The champion, Hikaru Shida, will be taking on Saraya, Toni Storm, and Dr. Britt Baker. Now, before we even go anywhere, I have to give so much credit to Toni Storm. She was kind of blending in with the Outcasts. That's what they're called, right? I don't know why every week we both are like, what is the name of them?
I don't know.
She was kind of blending in, and now she's doing this, like, disgruntled, like Marilyn Monroe, very
like British accent or whatever accent she's got.
It's almost like accentuating it, like the way she's doing her hair. I absolutely love it. The backstage interview with Lexi Nair, she said something like, I don't know who interviewed me last week, but they were horrible. And she was talking to Lexi, who was the person who interviewed her.
Right.
She throws shoes at her at the end. Just the way her interviews are just so
she's
good.
Doing the heel, like everything bothers her about what everybody does, how she asks the questions, what she's asking, the audacity that you would even ask something like that, like very
get that stupid look off your face,
and that very but playing the victim role too.
Exactly.
At the same time, like, oh well, I wasn't able to do this because this happened. Very just
has an answer for everything.
Yeah. It's hopefully I'm kind of hoping that she kind of goes outside of the outcasts or the outsiders or whatever we're
Seems
calling
like an outcast. Yeah.
I've been very critical about Toni Storm, and I'm not really the biggest fan of hers, and this has kind of got my interest peaked,
Obviously, she was in the group with Saraya, who hasn't wrestled a ton since she's been in AEW, but she will also be in this match, so there's got to be something
is going to be
there.
An interesting dynamic,
Yeah, because even Toni was asked about it, and she didn't really make any mention.
Well, she was asked, she said, I trust her fully to have, so that there won't be any, debauchery in the match, and it'll be a fair fight.
There's got to be something there that's set up for the match,
I mean, yeah, it's the writing's on the wall. You can't deny that that's going to be an element. Anytime you have two people that are on the same side of something that end up being in a match where it's everybody for themselves, you always end up seeing a little bit of friction between.
Somebody goes, screw you.
Yeah, I mean, because there can only be one winner, and if if Toni Storm gets annihilated by something and Saraya sees an opportunity to pin, like, it's for the belt.
For sure. But if Saraya happens to be laying with, her face pretty low in the corner and Toni Storm just happens to
mistake her and take her out with a
know that it's her and take her out with that gnarly hip that she does.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised. But then you have Britt Baker and Hikaru Shida, who were on bad terms for a while.
We're on the same team for a little bit.
On the same team.
But they don't have that same dynamic. If these two could go at it right now, just the two of them, and they wouldn't hold back.
But they have their own backstory too.
Right,
so
right.
A lot to unpack here. Personally, I'm just hoping it's a great match and we see Hikaru Shida retain that belt, hold on to it for a while. I'm really interested to see what she's going to do. So to take it away so quickly after only a couple matches, I feel like would just be another bad thing.
But then the other side of that coin,
though,
the other side of that coin though is this is the biggest stage that AEW has, and especially with their women's division. Would it be more exciting to have her lose the title? Would it be worth it for the pop, or would it be worth it to have your champion retain and create a bigger legacy on their second title run?
Yeah, I believe this is her second. I feel like B, put that in the capacity that Hikaru Shida beat out 3 other women,
right?
Former champions, 2 other former champions in this huge match.
Right.
Britt Baker being the first woman to ever sign with AEW. There's like so much history here. I think that is more important to Hikaru Shida's legacy. And again, the women's division has just been criticized. There's a lot of eyes on it. Let's keep this going. Let's push one person. She's been taking a lot of her own time to promote this, show, whether it be interviews here or in England.
Right.
She's done a lot of interviews to talk about this championship.
You're talking about
Hikaru Shida. So I feel like she's really putting in the time as a champion should.
Right.
To try to, she's not from the United States, and her English has gotten really well. She speaks really well.
I don't know if they play that up on TV at all, but she was on AEW, and she speaks better English than I was expecting. Mm-hmm. It just from what I've seen on TV, I don't know if they've just worked on it a lot since the last time she was on in a speaking role on TV, but her English pronunciation has gotten so much better. I can understand her so much better. I know that was a big criticism of a women's wrestler, or not just women's wrestler, but a wrestler that doesn't speak English natively. If the people at home can't understand what the champion is saying,
this is a televised program.
Yeah, it's difficult to deliver emotions for a match through just their body or their body language.
Right.
So yeah, I could see her holding onto this belt. I could see it going to another person.
She's just so hot right now as far as like the just the wrestler that she is. Everybody loves her. It makes sense. She didn't get the recognition when she was champion before because it was during COVID. She didn't really get to perform.
There wasn't a single person in the crowd.
The only time she performed in front of a crowd, she lost the belt.
Yep.
And now here she is. Imagine how much that means to her and how much that proves that Tony Khan believes in Shida to keep that going. But there's so much here, and I think there's something interesting that we have to at least, why not have fun to speculate a little bit. You had texted me something interesting that I think you should bring up about the women's division, about the Spanish announce team.
Yes, Thunder Rosa has technically not yet been cleared. However, she will be in All In. She says she will be at Wembley doing the Spanish commentary. But just was like 2 weeks ago, she said something about having like a 5-minute challenge or 5-minute match with Doc Samson to see how well she's doing.
Mm-hmm. And that she is technically cleared.
Yeah, I'm wondering if she's going to play a part in Britt Baker not being able to get the win over Hikaru Shida. Because we were talking about how Hikaru Shida's, building another championship run, and Britt Baker being the first woman signed. They've put a lot of time and energy into her. She won the Owen Hart tournament
the
last
first year. Yep.
Former AEW Women's Champion, one of probably
the best reigns.
Runs.
Yeah. Definitely my favorite personally.
And to have her lose would kind of pull some steam out of her. But if you put an element to where Thunder Rosa, who has had a rocky history with Britt Baker,
yep,
make her.
They said they've made up.
Of course, I mean everybody makes up, but there's always going to be animosity.
They never really finished that story with the two of them.
No, and I think this could be an opportunity that, like I said, I don't think she's going to run in and smack her in the head with a chair. But maybe she puts the headset down for a minute and just stands up by the ring when Britt Baker is about to, hit her finisher and just catches her eye for a split second.
Pulls her legs down or something.
Yeah, something. I think she could walk into Collision and be a heel from the get-go. Mm-hmm. Like she's already got that potential heat.
Why not? They've been promoting her on the intro, on the commercials for Collision. Obviously, she's coming there. It makes so much sense.
I mean, she's even said her return is sooner than everybody thinks. Yeah.
You make it look like it's Britt's going to win, and then something happens with Thunder Rosa, and everybody's super upset.
You don't have to make it a super heel thing.
Shida wins.
You can just have the camera angle. Britt hits this, and then she goes to put her in the lock that she does that I can't remember the name of, and all of a sudden the camera pans over, and there's Thunder Rosa right on the apron staring at Britt, and Britt stops for a minute and stares, and then Saraya comes in and kicks Britt Baker, and she's not able to. And then she ends up getting pinned. And that would set up. I mean, you could even do that all out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
there's so much to add to that, but yeah, interesting. I really like your perspective on that.
And finally,
last but not least,
finally and first, I guess, because they're all the beginning and the end. We have the AEW World Title match between best friends Maxwell Jacob Friedman and Adam Cole Bebe.
Yes.
And this isn't the only match that these two have.
To unpack here.
There's a lot to unpack there, but they also have a tag match on the 0 hour pre-show, which starts at noon.
If you're in the United States.
In the United States, yeah. Between MJF and Adam Cole, Better Than You, Bebe.
Yes.
And our boys Aussie Open.
For
the ROH Tag Team Championships.
Yes, because MJF knows how much these Tag Team Championship belts would mean to Adam Cole.
Right.
There's a lot.
There's so much to unpack.
To this.
I feel like a quarter of this pay-per-view is dedicated to MJF and Adam Cole.
Oh, God, yeah. And just the story every week, the backstage antics, the little dates that they go on. We had the dodgeball date. This week, MJF was like, listen, we're going to go right to the source. We're going to go right to, the place that we need to go to get into.
Their Mecca. The Australians'
heads.
Mecca place to go.
Outback Steakhouse, baby. Adam Cole's mind was blown. I guess he'd never seen a bloomin' onion before.
Apparently, I don't know. Actually, I don't know if you've seen, but on X or Twitter, MJF tweeted to Outback, and Outback actually retweeted back, and there's kind of a back and forth, and it was kind of funny. So Tony Khan's got some sponsorships he could probably pick up from Outback Steakhouse.
You might as well run with it. Hey, they were smart to tweet MJF back.
So, yeah, we've got Better Than You Baby taking on Aussie Open for the ROH tag titles. And then...
yeah, go ahead. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to throw you off.
No, you're fine. And then we've got the main event later on, which is MJF.
Hours later.
Versus Adam Cole for the most coveted prize in all of professional wrestling. What are we doing with this? Like, I know it's gotten a lot of criticism because people are worried that, Adam Cole or MJF could get injured in their tag team match. Something could happen. And a lot of things could happen. But we have... I can't think of a time where you had your world champion and his challenger in a tag match with each other,
and then
for
later
different
on
tag titles,
right?
For a different tag team championship, and then later on they have to fight each other. I can't think of a single time there was
this is unique.
A situation like this in a wrestling promotion.
I love it.
What are we doing here? What is going to come of this? There's got to be some reason that they're doing this. And I know belts are belts, and everybody wants to have all the belts. I can't see this being a thing to just promote the 0-hour pre-show. There's got to be more to this.
Well, I have thought about this probably way too much. Honestly, just at random times, you're like scrubbing the dishes and you're like, what are they doing here? Like, there's something to this, I can understand the concerns of we're putting the people in the main event and the AEW championship holder in a situation where they can get hurt and can't have that main event later in the night.
Right.
So I don't see this being a very long match. Disaster. I think it's going to be more of a storytelling match.
Right.
They might do some dance moves or something like they've been doing, like, oh, should we do the kangaroo kick? That whole thing.
Right.
But I think this is just what I've come to the conclusion, and what do I know? I'm nobody. This is what I think might happen. Something happens so that Aussie Open retain.
Right.
As they probably should, because that would be kind of weird. They shouldn't take the reins from Aussie Open. They should push them and put a name on not only the ROH Tag Team Championships, which should absolutely be being talked about, should be talked about right now, but also Aussie Open.
Right.
But have a situation that maybe MJF causes them to lose.
Right,
and
just
now
like you
MJF,
did the AEW tag titles.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I keep doing this. And they kind of play on that. Mm-hmm. So then when it comes time for you to have this main event, MJF almost seems so apologetic. Man, I'm so sorry about earlier,
Right.
And Adam Cole's like, don't worry about it. Let's just get to this match. And that plays into it so that you're almost thinking that, when's MJF going to turn? When's something going to happen? When's MJF going to do something? But the interesting thing about this is technically, both are going in as a face.
Right.
And that's really hard to sell a match when you have two faces who are best friends going for tag team championships together without realizing that this has happened before.
Okay. I agree with you.
Okay.
Everything you said, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go back, 5, 6, 7 weeks when I was going on about when is MJF going to turn. There's one thing that nobody has addressed, and it's very, very seldomly been talked about. I've only heard a few people even mention this. We do have this tag title match. They're both going in as faces, but the one thing we have not touched on is the fact that Adam Cole signed a contract for the main event at Wembley without a single look as to what he is signing.
Yeah, that is something that we did notice. You could pull Matt Hardy and be like, hey, guess what? And there's a stipulation to this or something.
I think that's where we're going with, because there hasn't been a single mention of this contract that MJF just had in his hands,
right?
Pulled out of nowhere and was like, hey, I want you to sign this.
Well, and who wouldn't be given this opportunity and be like, of course, dude, you're my best friend. Like, of course I'm going to sign this. Hand me the pen. Like, let's go.
Now, that being said, I'm not saying that is the way it's going to go. I just find that it'd be an interesting thing that nobody has talked about it. And we're always talking about wrestling doesn't surprise anybody anymore because we've all done the storylines. It's all just regurgitated bullshit.
Yeah.
I really think that this could be something that could lead to something bigger.
Okay.
Now, with that being said,
that could be fun.
I don't think MJF is going to leave, whether good, bad, or indifferent, whether he's the champion or not. I don't think he's leaving Wembley as a heel. I think Adam Cole is turning heel.
And I also think that too. And that's where my point was coming back earlier, is when I said we've seen this before. We've seen this before about 20 years ago with The Rock and Stone Cold.
You're still on that tip, aren't you?
You want to have a heated debate in our household? Who's better, Rock and Stone Cold? I think the two of us will literally go at each other's throat.
We will never have this conversation.
Dying on that hill.
We will never have this conversation because it will end up in divorce.
Yeah, it will not go well. And I'm on Team Rock, by the way. So let's just say that.
The losing team.
So in this bout that they had at WrestleMania 17, they had My Way, first off, but also
My Limp Bizkit.
So The Rock comes in.
Good job dating yourself.
They both are faces at this point. The Rock comes in as the champion. The whole thing, I don't mean to spoil it for you, just in case you haven't seen it.
If you haven't seen WrestleMania 17 and you're waiting to watch the main event,
I guess just skip over to the next podcast.
Yeah, skip over to the next part.
Spoiler alert, Vince McMahon comes in and kind of throws everything off. And I think it's very important to note what happened this week with the video of MJF and Adam Cole, because they are talking about the kangaroo kick, and they realize that this is a good opportunity to mess with one of the guys in the back, Charlie, and give him the double clothesline. And they do, and they get scolded by Tony Khan, who's never been shown in a capacity like this.
Well, I mean, he's been on TV, but he's never been
mean,
never had to pull the authoritative figure move.
And that's what Tony Khan's doing here, is he's yelling, MJF and Adam Cole, you can never do the double clothesline, outside of the ring ever again. Don't let me catch you doing this. MJF afterwards is like, wait till 2024. And Tony Khan opens up the door and he's like, what was that? MJF's like, oh, nothing. And he's like, that's what I thought. Okay, see you guys later. And acts all like typical Tony Khan. So I am interested to see if that's what's going to play out with this as well, is that Tony Khan is going to interfere with MJF retaining his championship.
Right.
And Adam Cole is going to turn heel and walk out as the champion, baby.
With Tony Khan?
In cahoots with Tony Khan? Why not take this opportunity to finally do some authoritative backstage? They don't do that in AEW. Some fun with that. Me and Tony Khan,
or
the Triple H.
They kind of do that a little bit in ROH with the board of directors they have.
Oh, that's a whole different tip. But yeah, do that old school, like we said, Attitude Era thing where it's like Adam Cole and Tony Khan are like Vince McMahon and Triple H.
Right.
We're running things here.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't think I have to agree with you. I think that it's too out of place for Tony Khan to not have something to do with Wembley, whether it's a direct, responsibility as to what the outcome of the match is. I don't know if Tony Khan will be involved that much, but I guess we'll end up seeing Sunday.
Just a week away at this point.
Yeah, a week away from today. Well, today when you hear this, it'll be 6 days away. But yeah,
it's finally here, and it's really crazy. I'm really excited.
Over 80,000 people, Wembley Arena, a legendary arena in
London.
In London,
outdoors, which is going to be interesting because the last I saw was the weather looks
so cooperative.
Sketchy.
Yeah. So that'll be
19
interesting.
degrees and very windy.
Well, you got to remember that was 19 degrees Celsius, not 19 degrees Fahrenheit. There's a huge difference between those two.
Okay, that's fair.
But I think that's going to do it for AEW All In and probably this episode.
The podcast for this week. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't already, follow us on Twitter. We are at CAW Wrestling Pod. And not only there, but also on Facebook, on Instagram.
Threads, X.
Yeah. We try to stay relevant. We appreciate you if you could go over there and follow us and
make sure you
tell us how you liked the podcast.
And make sure you use hashtag CAW Wrestling
Predictions.
CAW Predictions.
Yes.
Where we post our predictions for every pay-per-view, and All In's going to be no exception. We will have them posted usually an hour prior to the start of it, and there's nothing to win over except for just bragging rights. And I am your CEW Predictions Champion. My belt is currently being designed, and my face is going to be etched into pure gold.
Good Lord, the beard
and I will wear it around my waist. So not only will my face be the most amazing thing that you people will see, but the stuff around my waist will be the most amazing thing for the first time in my life.
If you're going to be watching All In, we would love to see what your actual predictions are. And the only way that we'll be able to see that is if you tag us or use, again, the hashtag CAW predictions.
You can find me on Twitter/X at GunkDudley.
This is going to be weird. I can't accept the X.
Twitter
You
X.
can find me at
X
a bacon party.
Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you tune in every Monday morning for a fresh cup of coffee and wrestling, a wrestling podcast, and we will see you in the next episode.
Bye, friends.